So where's the baby? If you were here at 4 o'clock, you know he got left behind momentarily by Mary and Josephina, but he was rescued. But where's the baby? If this is still the Christmas season, as the liturgical calendar indicates, there ought to be a baby, and angels, and shepherds, and a barn, and a young woman great with child, and an anxious husband with no place to provide housing for his wife and quickly growing family, and most of all, there ought to be a baby. But there are lots of ways to tell a story, even this most familiar. We have grown so accustomed to a solitary story, a single voice on the matters of Jesus and his birth, that we can't imagine Jesus' birth took place any other way but the way that children tell us every Christmas Eve. Here's the story we know and love. And it comes not from John, who we read today, but the gospel writer Luke. In Luke's version of the story, his eyes are always on Mary, the unlikelihood of her pregnancy, and the strange circumstances that accompanied Jesus' birth. It is Luke who gives us the census that put Mary and Joseph on the road. It is Luke who introduces us to shepherds in the field and angels in the clouds, who lets us see into Mary's pondering heart. It is Luke who places the holy child in the manger, who sends the shepherds back into the night, glorifying and praising God for all they had seen and heard. That is a proper baby story. So why aren't we telling it today? Because there are others. There is also Matthew's take on those events. The Gospel of Matthew claims to be the definitive source on these matters. Matthew has the gall to write, "Now the birth of Jesus took place this way." His story is long on Joseph and very short on Mary, and even less interested in the child. Almost as an afterthought, Matthew writes, "Oh yeah, and Joseph had no marital relationships with Mary until she had a son, and Joseph named him Jesus." But at least there was a baby. Don't even bother asking about the birth story told by the gospel writer Mark. There isn't one. As a writer, there is not a sentimental or romantic bone in Mark's body. He was a stoic man, a terse writer. His gospel opens not with a baby in a manger, but with a fully grown, heavily bearded, verbally abusive, oddly dressed, deeply offensive John the Baptizer, knee-deep in sinners and sarcasm. It is John the Baptizer who introduces us to Jesus in Mark's gospel, and the Jesus to whom John introduces us is all grown up. But there's one more story to tell, and today we tell it. Surely John will bring a tear to our eye, a tug to our heart. Well, it ain't going to happen. Today, on the second Sunday of Christmas, John gets the last word on Jesus' birth. Prepare to be underwhelmed. John's birth story takes us on a journey not to Bethlehem, but a journey through time, on an adventure with physics. In the beginning, John writes, in the beginning, before there was anything or anyone, when the world we know was only a gleam in God's eye, John claims that Jesus was there. Jesus, not in human flesh, but a word waiting to be spoken. Jesus was the word that lit the spark that fueled all of creation. Jesus is, according to John, the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. But before we have time to absorb that metaphysical claim, John jerks the narrative steering wheel away from us, straight toward John, mostly to run him off the road. There was a man come from God. His name was John. He was not the one. Back to our previously started story. And pulling us back on the road, John finally tells us about a birth. But there's no baby. There's not even Jesus. John tells the story of our birth. To all who received Jesus, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of human volition, but from God. We are born in John's gospel. John doesn't give a fig about mangers and angels, virgins and sheep. And after John writes about this light and about us being born, he looks directly in our eyes and says, let me tell you where you came from. Let me tell you about your birth, child of God. Right after Christmas, I had opportunity to reconnect with a long-time, though geographically distant, friend. I had not seen her in the flesh since I attended her husband's funeral a little more than a year ago. Her husband was young when he died, that is, he was my age. His death was horrible, sudden, dramatic, traumatic, absolutely unexpected. He died because of a confluence of unrepeatable, unpreventable medical and circumstantial events that felled this powerful man like a mighty oak. His death stopped the earth spinning on its axis, at least for her. The ensuing months have been more fog than sunlight, more tears than laughter, more turmoil than peace. Whole chunks of time are simply missing for her. There were days when she couldn't get out of bed. Because of his untimely and tragic death, my friend will never be the same. Grief has changed her, perhaps on a cellular level. And I have worried over this year of grieving if perhaps the light that once shone in her so brightly may have gone out. But it has not. It cannot. And it will not. My friend is a woman of mature, honest, and hard-fought faith. It is not easy for her to believe in God. And though it may seem hokey to you or a little naive or maybe like, don't all the stories end with somebody believing in Jesus? The one thing that has sustained her in this horrible year is that she knows her birth story. She knows where she came from. Not the story her lovely old parents tell about the day she was laid in their arms, but the story John tells. And my friend knows beyond doubt and beyond reason that she is God's child, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereunto. And she knows on a cellular level that the light that always flickered near her, even on those dark days, the light that lit every sleepless night, was not hers. And therefore, it cannot be extinguished. It is the light that birthed her, the light that carried her, the light that has guided weary travelers down every dark road since the dawn of time. God said, "Let there be light," and there has been. We have all learned to self-identify in the world. When we meet people for the first time, we always give them some identifying mark, right? Hi, I'm a pastor. Hi, I'm from Iowa. Hi, I'm a daughter. I'm a wife. I'm a friend. I'm a neighbor. And all of those identifiers are true. But each one of those identifiers can be stripped away from me with a stroke of a pen or a short circuit of my heart. And when they are, not if, when all of those are taken away, who am I then? And to whom do I belong? I will be, always have been, God's daughter. That is why today, on the second Sunday of Christmas, there are no mangers or angels, virgins or sheep. There's not even a baby, though there is a birth. To all who received Jesus, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who are born, not of blood, or the will of the flesh, or of human volition, but of God. And this morning, on this odd Christmas Sunday, we will also sing a strange little lullaby. Of the Father's love begotten, ere the worlds began to be. I didn't sing that to my children, did you? When next we meet, all the accoutrements of Christmas will be gone. The wise men will have visited, leaving not even a whiff of camel poop behind them. Our lives will resume, and slowly the light in the sky will grow stronger than the dark. And who knows what this new year will bring? What joys and sorrows lay before us? Who among us will celebrate a baby? Who will grieve a death? Who among us will experience seismic change? We cannot know. But in the coming year, in joy and in sorrow, we keep our bearings by telling the story of how we were born, our origin story. And perhaps on some dark day, it will bring you comfort to remember where you come from and to whom you belong. And perhaps on some dark day, we will have to remind one another, don't forget, favorite son. Don't forget, favorite daughter. God's light shines in every darkness. God loves us from the beginning of time. God delights to call us sons and daughters. Happy birthday, child of God.